and didn't receive any changes, so a motion to approve them as presented.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Amanda, is there a second? Lynn? All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Assume you're in favor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am.
Good. If you to vote against.
Against my own minutes, yes.
All right, next item is the treasurer's report. So we'll
Okay.
go to Lynn.
All right, I mean, I guess I'll start by saying budget passed. In 2023, I wrote down the percentages and the numbers. The numbers were down a bit. The percentages were about where they are.
6-1.
So thank you for everyone who worked on that. I've got I gave you the details on the off warrant and warrant. There are a couple changes. So, I mean, the QuickBooks, the way it reports is a little funny because it won't show, like, it won't let you create a header that makes sense. It creates a header based on when bills are paid and when it comes in. So actually, the off warrant should read that it's August 3rd to 2022 to September 14th, because that is the period in which, from the last time we approved until now, happened that there were no checks being cut in that 1 week period, but that's really irrelevant. So that would be a change. Did anybody, I mean, I think the biggest thing to bring to your attention is National Grid. Absolutely off the charts, a 35% increase this month over last month. And of course, last month was a tiny blip. What? Talk louder? Okay, I'll talk louder. So it went up tremendously, and Jill is continuing to work with people to evaluate our usage. Rates are up, usage is not that far up over past. So this appears to be mostly rate increases. And we are now at 110% of our budget for that line, but luckily the facilities line is still in decent shape, but it will be a continued issue, and we are not stopping looking at it. We're doing everything we can to monitor it. Any other questions about the off warrant?
If not, we need to make a motion for that one, right? So is there a motion to approve the off warrant? Mary, is there a second? Katie, any discussion? If not, need a motion to, or vote to accept. 5. All right,
Okay.
on to warrant.
There always is something. Okay, so the warrant, the motion is correct here. So we have basically 2 warrants. We're going to approve them as one. So the motion is to authorize the warrants dated, one here that's for $21,777.13, and also a second one, which is a credit from our credit card. So it's an older credit, but earlier this year that we're dealing with. And so it's a separate one, but it brings the total warrant for the month, because the credit's for $330.49. So the total warrant is $21,446.64. There really wasn't anything particularly surprising in the warrant. I did detail some of the ones. I guess Brian's and Gramuglia finished their field work for the audit. Jill, I'm sure
I have a draft, so.
Jill has a draft, right? But the expense for that came through, but otherwise, and then the Wi-Fi on the patio, which was a gift and grant expense. So now Wi-Fi is out, it's done, right? There's Wi-Fi on the patio. So, any questions?
All right, not need a motion to approve the warrant. Katie. Amanda, second. Any discussion? those in favor? 5, all right. And then lastly, the financials.
Okay, this year is 70% over. A couple of things I'll bring to your attention on the P&L. First of all, we did receive our state aid. It was a few $100s more than budgeted, but well, every few hundred helps. So that was in the, see, the state aid line is the 4202, $4,936. So we have now received all of our public funds for the year. We are at 100%, which is what we would hope to be. Other pieces of note, I mean, I think the biggest, if you look at the line 5035, utilities, 110% of our budget for our utilities. Told you, IT, hardware, software is at 99%, but I think that, you know, it's just, it's the ebb and flow. And just as a statement, while we are under in our personnel line at 60%, we do have our NICELR's bill coming up, which will be about the ballpark, we think around 130,000-ish, although we budgeted 165. Something in that range, we don't know exactly, and that will be coming up in November. So we're really on track with personnel. We're not under budget with personnel.
And NICELR's is the one we pay.
That's the one
Advance.
last year we started, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the one, right, so, correct. Now we're going to continue to pay it in November to save a few $1,000s.
Okay. Okay, so that's not the difference between 165 and 130. It's just that's our estimate of the
No,
amount.
it's just, it's because it's, we estimate when we prepare the budget and it's based on.
There's an estimated invoice, then a projected invoice, then an actual invoice. The estimated invoice
Sounds like.
Was
paper.
1/3.
came after we budgeted.
Right.
And that, so we budgeted based on the previous year. Then the estimated budget came and it was like 127 something.
Okay.
Then the projected came and it was 143.
Okay, so we don't
So
have
there's
any idea.
some, we don't know what the real one's gonna be.
We're confident it'll be under our 160.
It should be under 165.
Okay, so that can pay for the lights.
We
Sounds
hope that, that's a hope, actually, that it's enough to help pay for lights. Keep the lights on, as they say. Okay, any questions on the P&L?
Can you remind, what is the NICELR's?
Oh, NICELR's is the New York State Retirement System
Okay.
for staff. Any other questions? Oh, I didn't talk about the balance sheet, did I? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's- No, I didn't know. That was-
Balance. The balance sheet is fine. I mean, I didn't talk about it because there's really not much to say. It is tracking where we expect it to be tracking. We're a bit above where we were a year ago. You know, we're in pretty good shape. You know, I have not much to add to that. You know, we're right where we expect to be at this time of year.
All right, sounds good. So we need a motion to approve the financials. A motion, Amanda, Katie second. Any discussion about the financials? Hearing none, all those in favor? 5. Okay, great, thank you. We'll move on to committee reports, admin,
Wait, Chad, you said 5?
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the votes have been 5.
Because
Oh, right,
Michael's
'cause
not
we're
here and
missing-
can't make it.
Yeah. Yep.
So the admin committee met on December 14th. We talked about, we did a little bit of catch up from the last couple of months. We didn't have a meeting. The meeting rooms for like old business, the carpet cleaning was done in the meeting rooms. We're going to look into doing carpet cleaning throughout the rest of the building in fiscal year 23. We don't have the budget for it this year, since we're really high on all the power. The backflow preventer, they're looking to get a proposal made for it. The approximate price is approximately 10K, but they're not there. We don't have, at the last I knew, we did not have any proposals out yet. We had people come in and look, but not give us any details yet. Same for looking into the building engineer. We're still working on getting a few names and getting an idea of what we're going to need for the building, as we've talked about 100 times. We're getting there. The construction grant is almost done. AV equipment's installed, properly working. The microphones are on back order, but most everything else is here for the construction grant to be finalized by June, hopefully. So we have till June of next year. They did a health insurance renewal in July, so costs are decreasing, doing fewer employees in the programs. We're gonna look next year to see what other options we have, since we haven't done a renewal in about 4 years, 3 or 4 years. So it's time to do that next year as well. For fiscal year 24 will be for 23.
For the employer contribution.
Employer contribution, yes.
Yeah, we do it different, yeah.
And we have new employees, full-time librarian and a maintenance employee. Joe will talk about that later, I think. And we discussed a little bit about the business manager, but we didn't get very far with that. So that's how we caught up with them.
All right. Sounds good. Any questions? All right, thank you, Amanda. Service committee. Oh, that's Cammy.
Cammy's
Yeah,
not coming. Cammy isn't gonna come.
yeah. Okay. Do you want to handle the policy review since we need to?
Sure. So as we discussed, well, we have several policies that are under the service committee. I guess I'll start with the first one. The first one is mobile hotspot lending policy. This was a policy that was put in place as a temporary policy during COVID, and it's been very successful. We made some minor changes, and we would like, the service committee is presenting it to the board for approval. So I don't know if you have a discussion about that now, or
You wanna
we
do one by
should
one?
report.
You want to do them one by one or do them as a group?
We could do those group.
Why don't we do
As a
the
motion.
discussion around each one,
And then we'll do one.
and then
motion.
we'll do one motion, if that is okay with everybody. Because I think we did have some questions circulate.
Can I just ask an informational question? Have we had any loss? Like, have we had? I know
believe
that
we've had
it's-
one lost. That we've had we can turn it off remotely. And
then
we had
they-
one, we've had at least one that was damaged. And we were able to send it back. They gave us a new one. So it's been very successful.
Wonderful. I think it's a great idea.
Next, same thing. This was a policy, laptop policy that was temporary during COVID. You might recall that prior to COVID, we did lend laptops, but only inside the library. So we started lending them for people to bring home during COVID. It's been very successful. At one point, I think currently, I think we make people wait 48 hours. We'd like to reduce, before checking out another laptop, we'd like to reduce it to 24 hours. And they're only laptops, and I believe hotspots too, are only available for East Greenbush or Schodack residents. So they're, this is one of those things that we are just providing to taxpayers. And we would like to make that a permanent policy. We have extensive procedures for these that are internal. So we're in good shape with these policies. There were some questions over email that I hope were answered.
I'm sorry, but I do have some questions still.
Okay.
Did you have some?
Well, I have one question. How long is it doesn't, unless I missed it, doesn't say how long one checks it out for.
Yeah, neither of them say how long you check.
But what is it? What is the term?
So we took that.
I'm just curious.
Sure. I think it's 3 days. Do you remember?
It's 3 days.
3 days. Okay.
3 days.
3 days for a laptop. And we don't put lending policy, or we don't put loan rules in any policy or dollar amounts for fines in any policy because those can change. And so that's that one, you have a table of fees and loan rolls. So that's a separate thing. But it's 3 days. Thank you. I'm glad you're right here.
So are you ready for my questions?
Yes.
Okay. There's a couple things. I think it says laptop policy, but I think it's supposed to say laptop lending policy. So that's just a typo thing that in order to.
Okay.
So under patron responsibilities, it says will be financially, and then it's missing a word, but I'm assuming it means responsible.
Responsible.
Okay. And it's for the cost incurred by the library to fix it. Right? That the patron is not going to be fixing
Yes.
anything. Okay. So
And
maybe,
that's right in line with our book replacement policy too. We want to replace the books and not have someone bring us a book. And that's because we have processing and different things that we do with our book vendors and
that makes
has
sense.
to do the right copyright and all that. So very similar.
Okay, so then there's the financial responsibility, but then at the bottom of patron responsibilities, it says that a fee will be assessed for the cost of repair or replacement. So I'm wondering, a fee will be assessed if there's a fee being assessed outside of being fixed.
It's,
Because these two things either seem to be maybe duplicative, or I wasn't sure what the fee being assessed is as opposed to the cost of the repair.
it will either be the cost of the repair or the replacement.
Okay.
That's what we will be charging.
So it's not a punitive fee.
No.
It really is.
Yeah, that's what I was, because
Whatever the actual cost is.
all right, because in the hotspot, it only says a fee will be assessed. So I think I was confused by whether or not I thought that was a fee for,
Well, that's for being reconfigured or reset.
yeah,
And there's not a huge.
there's not a cost involved for that.
A cost
Okay.
involved.
All right, so there-
Than us, resetting it with the company, but a laptop could potentially damage the laptop if they are making significant changes to the laptop.
Okay, so that's different. So this fee is actually the fee for the cost.
Yep.
All right, so that probably could be. Okay, will be assessed.
It could be,
You
changed. It
reword
could
it or
just be
something.
reworded to say a fee will be assessed to cover the cost of repair or replacement. And then
Yeah.
you indicated it's not some extra fee
Right,
of that.
Yes.
okay, okay.
So if we're gonna try to vote these in tonight, we need to
As
be
amended.
clear about that language when we do the motion, right?
Yeah.
Say, okay, you got your caption.
And I will put, yeah, I'll read this out.
Okay.
And then when we do the motion, we'll say as corrected.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I wondered, any violations of the library's internet use policy may result in the loss of library privileges or loan lending privileges. So I wasn't sure why that was in there.
Where is
I
that?
thought maybe, so that's
Second
the
bullet.
second bullet. So I wasn't sure.
Why is that in there? Because our internet policy really applies when you're inside the library. And so if you're using it, if you're violating the internet policy and you're looking at child pornography on library computers while it's at home, then you may lose your library privileges.
Okay,
So that is
Because it's
separate
library
from
property.
loaning privileges.
That's more than
It could be library loaning, or it could be lending, or it could just be the ability to use the library.
okay. So would this then, should this be clarified maybe? Because we're talking about the laptop lending policy, and then this is talking about the internet use policy, but are we
Yeah,
talking
While
about?
using the library's laptop. I
Okay,
mean, this is while using
Right.
the laptop. When
Any-
you borrow a laptop, if you violate the
Well, how about you
library's-
just say any violations of the library's internet
using.
use policy while using a
Library laptop.
library laptop may result.
Yeah, but don't we have an internet use policy
Yes.
anyway? If
Yes.
you're not using a library, so I'm not sure why you need to spell that out that specifically, right? You're basically reinforcing what is already, I mean, that to me feels duplicative because we already have an internet policy that says if you violate the internet usage policy while on the library's Wi-Fi, you risk loss of, may result in loss of library privileges. I'm assuming the language is similar,
Yes,
right? So I don't,
because it depends on what it is.
Well, could you, I mean, I think what Mary is getting at is the idea that this is not on library premises. You borrow this laptop, you bring it home.
That's
you
what I, yeah.
violate the policy. Somebody might say, well, I'm not subject to the library's internet policy when I'm at my house. But we're saying when you're at your house with the library's laptop, the library's internet policy.
Yeah, are you using the library's internet
It
policy at
says
your
at the
house?
top, borrowers are subject to the library's internet use policy when using a library laptop.
Right.
That's in the very first paragraph. So this is just
So any
telling you what
violation,
the violation would be.
So using your own internet or the library's internet?
Accessing the internet via the library's laptop.
Right.
That's what the first.
It doesn't matter
paragraph
what
says.
your provider is. It's what are you allowed to do on the internet at a library's.
I mean, if it's clear for. It wasn't clear to me that, because I didn't know how we could enforce something when somebody has a laptop at their house, but I guess if it shows up on your computer, yeah.
It's kind of like if it shows up on our history
Yeah.
where it's been wiped and it's stuff that's,
Mhm.
against the law, then we are going to address it.
Just in case somebody happens to find out that they went on your laptop at home,
Mhm.
cops aren't gonna look at it, they're gonna say, oh, it's a library laptop.
would,
They won't.
would that second sentence in the top paragraph, borrowers are subject to the library's internet use policy when using a library laptop, comma, regardless of where the laptop is being used? Does that address what you're thinking? I mean, that ambiguity.
I mean, it makes it clear to me that regardless of if you're using it here or you're using it while you're on vacation or, using someone else's Wi-Fi.
Yep. Yeah. Does that make sense?
and that does make more sense because then it refers anyone to the internet use policy. So you don't
Yeah.
end up later making changes to one that suddenly, yeah. All right.
Doesn't flow through. to
So
the-
then you get rid of that whole bullet, number 2.
All right, so borrowers are subject to the library's internet use. So I'm sorry,
Borrowers are subject to the library's internet use policy when using a library laptop, comma, regardless of where the laptop is used.
okay. All right, so that would be the that's where laptop is used. And
I
then,
think we could keep.
Well, you can keep
yeah,
it.
you could keep that bullet. And then
Yeah.
you don't need anything else but that, yeah,
You don't need
that,
to explain it.
Right.
okay, that helps, or that fixes. All right, so those,
Those changes.
okay, thank you.
I have a question about the COVID one. Are we ready to go to the COVID one? Sure. Okay, so under amount of pay, after the semicolon, it says, if they have engaged in non-essential travel as designated by New York State as ineligible for paid sick leave. So does that mean non-essential travel as in like I go to Disney World, or does that mean non-essential travel as in I tried to take like, is it if I go to Disney World and I get COVID and then I have COVID when I come back? Or is it I pretended I was sick to go to Disney? Like, what's the issue?
So when this policy was written the first time, there were travel restrictions.
Okay, that's what I
And so it
thought.
was, if you go and that you weren't allowed to go, that's
Right.
on you. We're not gonna pay for that. You
Right.
decide to go across the country or wherever.
So I
So
would,
we made additions to this policy that were important based on how people are taking their tests. Are they taking their tests? Before this change, it required employees to get a PCR test.
Okay.
And now everybody's using at-home tests. So we updated that language. We really didn't go into depth with this about any other changes, just trying to add that. We can certainly make changes and
I would just suggest taking it out, I guess, because now everybody goes everywhere and there's really no contact tracing.
Does New York State still mandate the non-essential travel?
No,
not anymore.
I did check tonight. I went online this evening. There's nothing about.
And I agree with Katie, we should probably take that language straight out of there.
So just put a
If we're
period
referring
at
to a policy
exception.
that doesn't exist in New York
Or-
State.
Right.
I think just that whole, like,
Well, the only
Do you wanna
provision
picture what
that,
that is?
it's right.
It's under amount of pay.
On page 1.
Already looked at it. Not already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with taking it out. But
So you
that
just
is
put a
an
period
exception
after
once-
above? Is that where you'd want that?
But is there, leave will be paid,
yeah, because 5 is
will
different.
pay
1 through 4.
the regular
and
rate of
6
pay and
above,
6
And then,
Period.
and then just.
period after the word above.
Okay.
Now,
Smart.
can I just, I didn't understand the line above that. Employees taking leave for the reasons listed in number 6 to get the COVID vaccine will be granted a sufficient period not to exceed 24 hours. So is this time to get the shot? Because if they got sick from the shot, it would just be sick leave. Like if you go get your COVID shot and the next day you feel terrible or have a low fever, that doesn't get covered here. So is this up to 24 hours to go out to CVS to get the shot? Or is it up to
No, I think
24
it's
hours?
to include if they get sick from the vaccine.
This was a suggestion I had given to Jill during the service committee discussion, which is, okay, you get the shot and then, the next day you get knocked down and you shouldn't really go to work.
Right.
That should be COVID, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I just didn't, it wasn't clear to me because of not to exceed, so it's 24 hours after the shot. So if I get this.
Because you can get 4 hours to go get the shot, right? So you go at whatever, 2:00 on
It
Wednesday,
can be intermittent, so your schedule,
right? And so then if you have to take the next day off because
that's 8 days or 8 hours.
8 hours, right?
Okay, I mean, to me, it was the 24 hours was confusing to me. It just was confusing to me.
Oh, I see.
Because like, what is 24 hours? Does that mean like 3 days of work? Because like an
Oh.
employee,
24 work hours.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I
it
got you.
wasn't, I just thought 1 day of work. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It
That's
just
fine.
was unclear to me. I wasn't.
Well, I mean,
comfortable with it.
For me, it was 24 hours, right? I got knocked out the next day and by the second day, I was fine.
Right.
So I just gave the example of, all right, 24 hours, but I think some people get 48 hours. I mean, I don't want to 48 hours of actual time, right? Elapsed time, not
Not work
elapsed time, not work time. So I think your point is that 24 hours really 3 8-hour?
Correct. I mean, I just think
Shifts,
it
right?
should be clarified that it's,
Yeah.
I mean, 1 work day, like,
or
or
24
24
work hours,
clock
like you were
hours,
saying.
or 24.
Wouldn't be
clock
24
hours.
work hours.
That's what I,
24
I think
clock
what you're
hours.
saying.
no, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is we should clarify that. I think that's a good point.
Oh,
because
okay. I
Is
couldn't
it
see.
24 hours of,
Elapsed.
no, 24 hours of work time. So 3 8-hour shifts in case somebody gets a 3-day
I
knockdown
think
from it.
no. I think that.
So then do
those are
16.
extreme.
And I also, so I will throw another thing out there. Sometimes if there's something in here, people will take the maximum. Right, so. I don't know.
So you
I mean,
mean,
I just think, I mean, I would be very comfortable if it said 1 work day following.
and you mentioned 4 hours to
We could
go
say-
get the shot, so where did that 4 hours come
That's not
from?
even
Is
listed.
that in here, or is that just
It's-
something
it's
that
still
you?
doing
I think
that?
originally it was in there.
It was in there originally, because that's.
I don't
where-
think it's in here. 'cause-
No, that was taken out for this, but we could say will be granted a sufficient period not to exceed 4 years for the vaccine. And then one full day of work for any vaccine after effects.
I almost though kind of feel like you don't need any work time to go get the shot, because this is also a time when the shot was so hard to come by that
It
if you
was.
could get a 10 o'clock appointment, I don't care, I'm going.
Right
Yeah,
now.
and it was
Whereas
limited.
now, you can walk into CVS, could I get a COVID vaccine? Sure. Wait 15 minutes at 7 o'clock at night, at 8 o'clock on a Saturday. So I don't think you any longer need time to get the shot.
But
I
it's
don't-
New York State still paying for the 4 hours. Like,
No.
okay.
New York State stopped paying a long time ago.
Okay.
Then it would-
And is this a booster or just a vaccine?
I think you don't get into that. I think you said any vaccine.
At this point,
Yeah.
they're calling it a vaccine for a year like the flu shot.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
So
Okay.
I wouldn't go into the
So it's just a vaccine.
delineating, yeah.
Just a vaccine. Okay, so I would agree that I don't see a need to put in the 4 hours to
Right.
get it. I think you put in a full day for the after effects, because I agree that.
So should we say one workday or one working shift, one shift?
One shift.
One working
shift.
shift.
I like that.
10 hours or whatever.
So not to exceed one work shift.
'Cause it could be
Perfect.
2 days after a shot. I mean, different people
Right.
react
Don't
differently.
people have sick leave?
If they're full-time, we don't have sick leave for part-timers.
But this is also like I work at a school, if I have COVID, it does not use my sick time because I have to quarantine, but if my son has COVID, I have to use my sick time to be with him. So it is, I don't want to say a perk, but like those sick days are valuable. So it also encourages people to do the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up. I mean, we are, the library, yes, as a public employer, required to offer 14 days. So this is on top of, even if the library employees had sick leave, we would still have to offer 14 days a year paid leave, separate from your sick leave for COVID, because that's New York State's current requirement for a public employer.
14 work days,
Yeah, 14 days of
Even though
COVID
the-
paid leave
even though
For
the
Every
policy.
year.
every year. That's
Okay,
what
so I
this
can get
does.
COVID twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. You know, you can't, it makes it clear, you can't just take 14 days
Right.
when you have COVID once, but you have in a course of a year, up to 14 days.
Right, and this does say you need documentation.
Yeah.
so
And this, this,
Okay, so this
Does-
is one work shift. Okay, that was my
Yeah,
only
so
question on that.
Can you, to make sure you have it, can you read what you have or you read?
I'll
you
read what I have and
and-
see if you have the same. thing. Okay.
Sure.
Employees taking leave for the reason listed in item 6 will be granted a sufficient period not to exceed one work shift per vaccine injection. Is that what you have?
Or should we say one workshop per vaccine injection after a side effects? Do we want to give them time off to go get a vaccine right now?
No,
Okay. Well, we did say that up there, so we want to take out item number 6. Saying that,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
so instead of saying the employee is obtaining a COVID-19 vaccination, we could say
Employee has a reaction
After
to,
effect, after
has a
side effect.
side effect from the COVID.
is experiencing.
Yeah,
Experience with side effects.
So you're getting language, Mary? You're writing language for that?
Yeah, experience.
So we're gonna modify 6. And then we'll have that line that we're talking about, the third line in amount and reasons for leave. We'll just say employees taking leave for reasons listed in item 6, the new item 6 will have access to one shift,
Period.
one shift,
working shift.
one working shift.
Mhm.
And then we probably want to change the amount of Oh, no, never mind.
One
Yeah, we
working
just took out that
or
line.
work shift,
In the amount
working
of pay.
or work,
Work shift.
work shift.
Yep.
All right, so for number 6, Jill, I had the employee experiences side effects from a COVID-19 vaccination. Is that?
Oh, if you want to make it
Congruent
similar,
language.
congruent, thank you, teachers, is experiencing, makes it align with the ones above it. Side effects,
COVID-19 vaccination. And then employees taking leave for a reason listed in item 6 will be granted a sufficient period
not to
of recovery time not to exceed 1 work shift. Maybe of recovery time.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Can I just ask one other question? Is this the format or is there a different, once we approve the policy, or is this?
This is it.
Okay, there. it is. And the effective date of January 1st, 2021.
We could, yes, that's when it was originally in effect. We can say updated.
Yeah,
Or
See, it's just because the
It's a
financial
revision.
policies have a whole different look to them. That's why I was wondering, and but these policies look different.
the format that the template that you use, I think that's what you're asking about, right?
is.
Yeah, well, originally we had decided that we were gonna transition everything to those
To this-
financial
To this.
templates.
Uh-huh.
And then I got feedback that it was
Too cumbersome.
too cumbersome and the italics were too small, the font was too small. So it's a job to transition everything the same way, so moving forward, we just do it this way.
Okay,
Everybody can read it, it's easy.
fine.
Are you good with language then, Mary?
So just the effective date and then revision date, is that what you're going with on this?
Because, well, it has it at the
Oh, at the
bottom,
bottom.
with a list of everything.
Oh, okay,
So the effective date is like always the first.
the first date, because you had it in effect in January 2021. Okay, yeah, I think I'm good. I mean, for the minutes, I'm just
So, I
going
mean,
to
but-
put as edited,
Okay.
and then I'll share with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not to be completely nudge about it, but it does say it wasn't approved until 3/16/21.
It was approved retroactively till January 1.
So maybe we should say that in that approval line. Because then it makes sense.
So we have 3 revisions, right? Item 6, the third sentence in amount and reasons for leave. And then putting the retroactive language in, let's see,
We have
Under approved.
approved
four.
3/16 to
Retroactive.
2020.
And then under amount of pay, also, we have that
Okay.
revision where we ended at above.
Right, so 4 revisions. Is everybody clear on the revision? So that
Okay.
do the motion, we'll do everything as revised.
Okay,
Discussions, does that make it simple so we don't have to
yes.
read through everything?
Where do you see amount of
So it's the line 1, page 1, the very bottom,
What we just talked about.
deleting
Oh,
everything after.
Yeah, I had
Gotcha.
4. That's good. Okay, are we good with that policy? Anything else we want to cover on policies?
That's enough.
Okay, if that's the case, then the motion to approve.
I would like to make a motion to approve 3 policies: mobile hotspot lending policy, laptop lending policy, COVID-19 paid leave policy as amended.
Right.
Wait,
Amendments.
okay, so, and it's Lynn is first.
Yep, and Amanda second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? 5. All right. Thank you. Is there anything else from service? I'm trying to remember. Katie, you took notes. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
let me, I'll just open them quick. Naming contest for the Little Free Library. So basically, like the service committee, people, patrons could propose the names and then the committee would vote for the winner. Oh, I did have here a suggestion to add over the counter COVID test into the COVID policy. I don't know if that
It was that,
remains necessary or if it already got added.
that was there. It's in here.
Then we suggested taking on the strategic planning as the service committee, getting started early next year rather than having a specific strategic planning committee. Might as well just be service, and that would be the big project that we're working on right now. We'll soon get a survey to the community. Then we'll engage the consultant by the end of the year, hopefully. We did work with someone before COVID, but then it stopped because of COVID. And then we kind of talked about what would be better, and it seemed like the focus was going to be what's the physical use of our facility. And that's kind of what it seemed like we might be prioritizing. So we would approach it that way. Focusing on just like a more concise document with really clear recommendations, and then trusting that person to be a professional who we paid and kind of going with that rather than looking for other little things, like really prioritizing. And then I had a suggestion to, Jill said there's some procedures that need documentation. And a suggestion that I made was doing something with the staff as like a stipend, like if you wanted to work on typing that up outside of your work hours and then bring it to Jill for editing and revision. And then once she feels it's ready, it could come to the board, but rather than putting something else on her plate, it could be a way to get that work done with people who know the policy, again, without putting more on someone's plate. It would be optional. Jill had a great meeting with Skodak and Castleton. We proposed some dates for the equity training. Jill was going to reach out to
Yep, I reached out.
them.
Gave them all
Okay,
those dates.
awesome. And then just adopting the policies.
Full meeting.
Any questions?
When you said, I think you were referring to engaging a consultant by the end of the year. Do you mean by the end of 2022 or by the end of 2023?
I
We
think
would like to at
the goal was
least
to like have a name
begin
by the end of this
engaging a
year.
consultant by the end of this year. Yes.
Just having that
Have
person
the
who we know we're gonna work with, and then
Okay, so choosing the consultant.
So, yeah. Skodak did mention that they're sending out a townwide survey next year, and we are invited to participate, so we can maybe work together to give a few questions or something particular that we want them to ask
nice.
about library service, which is great.
Okay, that covers service. For compensation, is this the reclassification? Do we want to cover that here, wait till the personnel memo, or was there something else under compensation committee?
I think, well, I had sent the final report out to everyone.
Right.
So I'm assuming people got a chance to read that. And there were, I guess, recommendations made in it as well, but I think the way that we envisioned it would be that the board will either embrace the report or not, as opposed to going through every recommendation or.
Right, in the personnel memo, we have the reclassification of those two specific. Do you want to cover those?
I think that,
Or-
I don't think we need to cover that.
Okay.
We the drafting of the budget also included some of the recommendations from the committee's study, so I'm not really
Yeah,
sure.
if it's got, I mean,
what
I
the
just want to
wording
make
should
sure
be. Yeah, yeah.
it's in here. I just didn't know if you wanted to touch base on it, or if we feel like we've covered it. We don't need to. I don't want to add more.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I'm kind of,
I don't remember what's in the minutes, but you might want to say from previous meetings, but you might want to say that the compensation study has been completed, a full report has been provided to the board, and now the board really should accept the report, I think.
So the motion is to accept the report of the compensation committee?
Why don't we wait till everybody's here in October to accept? I would just feel, or unless is there a driver to have it accepted before we do anything?
No, I don't think so.
I'd just rather have presumably everybody here, because that is a comprehensive,
Mhm.
assessment. And there's things that need to be done. I just would rather have all 7.
Sure.
here.
And I had sent an email, but also just to say in person, I thought it was really clear and transparent, and it was very easy to understand, and I appreciated that. So I thought it was well done.
thanks.
Okay, so we'll do that approval, that
In
language of,
October.
board has received it, and we'll approve it next month.
Sure. And then if there is any feedback or any changes, if you guys can email
Mhm.
Mary,
Yes,
because that was sent around on August 25th, so it'd be great to get all the feedback prior to the next board meeting, so we can just have a clear approval.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay, that covers it for committee reports. So we move to the director's report. Jill?
So the vast majority of my report was around summer reading. We had a very successful summer reading program. It was vibrant in here, which was really great. More people are in the library, and it's been fabulous. You have, if you go to page, there's a whole write-up on summer reading, pages 5 through 8. 5 through 8 encompasses summer reading. So take a minute and, or if you want to read it, please read it, because I'm really proud of our staff for putting on an extremely successful summer programming. We had, so how many programs did we have?
Kids,
70 kids events with 3,004 patrons, 16 teen events with 258 teens, and we had 12 programs were funded through a grant from the Rensselaer Elks Lodge, a summer science series, and of course the Friends, as always, helped fund all of our programming. And adults, we had 195 adults participate this year, which is great. And yeah, it looks like 46% of our participants identified East Greenbush as the town of residence, 8% Skodak, and 7% Castleton. So it was a good showing. There's some great quotes in there. Take a look at the programs because they're really fun, and they were. Yeah,
I can say they were really fun.
Yeah, I would second that.
I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about the shell. I forgot about that. They gave a shell to the kids to have them read a story to the shell. And he was so excited to do that. He's like, look, Mom, I have a shell I have to read to it every day. He did not read to it every night, but he did read to it sometimes.
That's really cute. We talked about, someone brought in a bunch of shells and said, could you guys use these because of the theme? And so we were like, what are we gonna do with shells? What are they gonna do? And someone in the children's department had a great idea. These were really cute, because not all kids get to go to the seashore.
I know.
Some kids don't go to the ocean. We don't live near an ocean really, so it's really special for those kids.
I would compliment them also, like when the chicken eggs were here.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't even with my kids. I think I was just picking up stuff or something. And the librarian actively went out and engaged kids and was like, would you help me flip this? Would you come and check this out? So I just thought that was like an added layer. You're not here for a program, you're just here. And then this bonus thing happens. And I think that's memorable and really cool. So great learning experience and like on the go without having like a program for it.
Yeah.
So it's great.
And even the scavenger hunt, they have a
Yep.
scavenger hunt and we're doing that monthly in the children's room right now. And over 100 families are taking part in this scavenger hunt. Every time, it's like their highlight. They come into the library and the children's room and they're looking for things and they're doing it together. Parents and children doing it together. It's not really something that kids do completely independently. So it's a really nice.
Well, and my son, like he's 9, he's the youngest. And so he's over a lot of like kiddish stuff, but he comes in and he does that. He looks for it and he's excited for it. And it is, it's really, and it's like one of those that's so easy, it's cheap, it's free. It's like,
Yeah.
You just, you're doing more work obviously, but people appreciate it.
And it brings kids into the library.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
families, right?
And we had we put together those new STEM kits. So we used to have, we've always had the activity kits based on a theme where kids will take them out. When we put together STEM kits, Jen spearheaded that in the children's department. And those, all summer long, those were gone. You couldn't get them. Now they're, back on the shelves available, but families were really using them, which is nice. So there was learning happening over the summer, which is, why summer reading programs were started, was to stop the summer slide. So that, it was great. It was a great summer. And we've been doing a lot of the stuff we've been doing right now there's been a lot of technology stuff that's been happening, a lot of, cyber security, trying to get up to date with everything we need for cybersecurity. So we are going to need to do a security audit. So that was an upcoming expense that we're going to need to take some money into. We're going to need to plan for that and kind of adjust some other expenses to be able to do that.
Jill, can I just say a cybersecurity audit or, okay,
So it's a IT security audit.
okay.
So there's been a lot of changes with underwriting for cybersecurity policies. And that means we have to make some changes. And we did add on a small rider for cybersecurity that didn't require all of this. It's very small and not nearly enough, but it's better than nothing right now. So we added that on, but in order to qualify for the more robust cybersecurity, we need to make some changes. So it's going to take time. There's a lot involved with it, a lot of staff training, a lot of documentation, a lot of new changes, multi-factor authentication for devices, which is kind of a nightmare in the setting that we're in, because we have shared devices for certain things, like the reference desk. There's a profile for the desk for subs to use and whoever's on the desk to use. It's one profile. We share one iPad for story time. You can't have, Apple doesn't allow multiple sign-ins. So there's a lot of operational changes that will need to happen to make us insurable. And I'm sure there's some solutions out there on how to deal with this, but we don't have the internal knowledge to just know what they are. So we're researching and trying to engage consultants that do know. So that's a big shift that we had. The more we worked with insurance and the more webinars we went to on this, the more time we've been spending on it. And that's been a lot of, Carrie's been doing a lot of work on this. And we've been talking about it. On another note, the AV installation is just about complete in meeting room AV. We now have, the speakers are up. We need to paint the wall. one wall with the screen paint so that you can project directly on the wall. So that needs to be done. The microphones need to be hung, but we're waiting for the microphones to be delivered. We hope that they'll be delivered in time by June. They were ordered to be delivered in time for last June. So we'll see if we get them. And we did look at switching to an alternative microphone, but they will be good. They would be good for teleconferencing, but not good for concerts, which is a lot of the stuff that we do is that kind of sound, even more so than teleconferencing. So it's important. I think we need to wait. It's the only option out there that works with our system. So we're just kind of stuck waiting. We've had a new, I guess we'll go over this in the personnel memo, which I'm next for that too, right?
Mhm.
So we've hired a new building maintenance, part-time building maintenance worker. And we have hired a full-time librarian one. So all of the positions that we posted have been filled. Last time we posted them, now they've been filled. So here on the personnel memo, I have several things for you. The first thing is the classification change of 2 employees. So one of the things on the that was identified in the classification or in the compensation study was that 2 employees were working. The positions needed to be reclassified because they were working on a class. And so job titles need to change and the salaries associated need to change. I have taken a look and we'll be able to accomplish it within this year's personnel budget. So the recommendation was to make those effective this year instead of waiting because they really are. It's not really equity, it's more that we should be doing this. So the first one is to reclassify Marion's position from library assistant to principal library clerk. So this matches the civil service title of the work she is doing. And to reclassify Selena, she's in digital services, position from library clerk to library assistant. And that she's doing a lot of, when we appointed her to be library clerk, we didn't have the library assistant position. So we put her in, she was a part-time library clerk and we extended her hours to full-time. But she is doing library assistant work. And now that we have library assistants, when we did this study, we realized that we really needed her to move to that position. So those are the classification changes. And then we have the provisional appointments of the 2 positions I just told you about. Michael Toma has started working as a part-time building maintenance worker and Heather Nelson as a full-time librarian 1. And then we also, Elizabeth Putnam, who used to be the head of adult services, she filled in for us. And so we have a provisional appointment for her. She did a weekend shift for us on a Saturday as a librarian 1 substitute. So we were grateful to have her and she was willing to come back and do that.
What makes them provisional? I mean, is that?
It means, so in civil service, if there is a list, then you are appointed off of the list. And so you're provisional during your probationary period, and then you become permanent. However, the county has not had any tests for a number of years.
Okay.
And I have a feeling that's going to be changing because there's someone new in there. I don't know if it'll be changing or not, but there's someone new in there and she has requested some more information. So we'll see if they're going to give more tests or not. I think she's requested more tests. I don't know. But regardless, that means we are hiring people and I would say 90% of the people here are provisional. And when I was hired provisional. And then before I started, like 2 weeks before I started, the test came out. And luckily I
scored 100 on the test. But it was like, whoa. And they said, there won't be a test. There's never a test, there hasn't been a
Yeah, right.
test in years. And there was.
Okay,
So
so that's,
most of our employees here, unless they've been here for a long, long time, are provisional because it have been no list.
okay.
I'm sure that they would work through the process with us because they've been so out of date. I would hope they'd work with us to keep our employees that are provisional. I would say we have not hired anybody who wouldn't be qualified for the test. We haven't hired anybody for a librarian position that doesn't have their master's in library science. We don't have anything in there that would not make them reachable if they applied for a test. So we're still following, the intentions of civil service.
Does that cover?
That covers it.
Okay, any questions on personnel?
Oh.
Or did you want to make
Report?
a?
The report, the
Oh.
draft report, I just wanted to bring up the audit because it appears that the auditor is planning to make a report to us in October.
Well, I would hope that the auditor would come to the October board meeting if that's something that you would like. So I'm thinking that it will go to committees, to the admin committee in October. And then if that works, we'll bring the auditor to the October board meeting. Unless we don't want that or want it in November. Do you guys want the auditor to come?
As well.
Sure.
They usually come, right?
They usually come.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
October board.
Any other questions on either the director's report or personnel? We do need to approve the personnel.
Motion, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel memo.
Okay, is there a second? Amanda? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? 5. All right, great. Liaison reports. Liz?
Hi.
Liz?
Charlie had to go to New York City, so yes, we step in. Things are good with the Friends for the most part. I see now that Charlie's been elected a trustee, we're going to be looking for a president sooner than later, but that's okay. We've got our elections in November. And we've got a few open spots on the board, but I don't think it's gonna be a collapse. And we have our book sale coming up the weekend of Columbus Day weekend, so the 7th through the 9th. So this one will include children's books. Typically, that would have been a separate sale with the festival, but that's still on COVID hold.
I'm sorry, Liz, you said it will include children's?
It will
Okay.
include children's book because there is no separate children's festival, yeah. Sorry. We've been having, we were having a table out at the actual farmer's market, but that was not really doing very well. And the majority of the people who had signed up for it were not happy to sit out there in the humidity and rain when it wasn't worth. So they moved inside and are actually selling raffle tickets and tote bags for the 2 baskets that we're currently raffling off. And that will probably conclude with tomorrow's, even though the farmer's market runs till the end of the month. There's just not enough need for it. We're hoping to have, this actually would impact you all as board members, try to get back to having a annual volunteer thank you party or event. And the question was sort of raised about what would be the best timing that would allow you as board members to attend, because for Julie Ann Price, who is our book sale chair, and the majority of our friend volunteers that work with her either in sorting or even some of the other, no, I guess that's not really more. The rest of the board members work, but we were talking about whether a daytime event or something perhaps on a Friday at like 5:30. And so with a mix of people during the day on your board, as well as people who are lucky enough to not have to work. So we just wanted to get your temperature on that, and if you have a preference for one or the other. Obviously, things come up, whatever day we pick, it might not work regardless of whether the time was good or not, but.
So this is for to appreciate the Friends volunteers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
all library volunteers.
yes, library
Oh, okay.
volunteers
It's like
as
the
well, so that, you know,
volunteer
staff would be able
appreciation.
to come to it, and the other people that volunteer from the library, so, yes.
Well, I think about half of the board now are working.
I work both of those times, unfortunately, so you can take me out of it, but that's okay.
I mean, I don't know if there's a strong feeling, we've had surprisingly a good response to a Friday evening event in the past, and we might think that.
And I think the library's closed on Friday,
Because it's 6.
6,
So
right?
we were thinking if we started it at 5:30, you know, and not everyone's gonna show up right on the dot, but also for the folks who do staff and stuff, that they would be compelled to stay, you know, way beyond there. We don't even start it till 6. And also just talked about having some catered food, because at this point, it's probably not gonna be well received to have people donate big goods, as we've done in the past. So as much as we would love all of your treats, Lynn. Some people are still. thinking about it, so.
I would do-
Strong.
I would do Friday, Friday at 5:30 is,
Yeah.
I work in Saratoga, so I'm not making it during the day event, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going holiday.
For a daytime event.
For a daytime.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so then that's what we'll be looking, I mean, we had talked about also doing like maybe a Saturday, like mid-morning kind of brunchy thing, where we have like 11-ish, you know, quiches, muffins, stuff like that. So part of it too is we need to talk to Susan and find out what's going on the calendar, find some spots, but, and then, the only other thing too is, related to the book sale, we had, gotten some bids and are having, work done on the shed to adjust the opening and access for, wheeling the, carts and the, call those, great big boxes that they send us from thrift books to at the end of the library sale, so we can.
Pallets, pallety things.
There's some other word. Anyways, so that's, the door is finally here, so the company that we contracted with will be doing that work shortly, so. Which you'll see it. It's good.
All right, thank you, Liz.
Pleasure.
Ed?
Well, it depends on what you want to know about. lot of
According to
paving
the
going.
next door app, and Bruno wants to know about the apartments across from the.
Yeah, project. It's not just apartments, it's
Yeah.
also commercial.
I know.
I can't give you a time frame on finishing because.
Amazing how fast it's going though.
Supply chain.
Yeah.
I know there's certain items that they can't get either. I know that because work for the county. We have a fire training center that we couldn't get doors for to secure this place so we can put in the infrastructure. Like, come on. Town, we're gonna have muscular, September is gonna be muscular dystrophy awareness month. Also, October is gonna be domestic violence awareness month, and October 21st, they're gonna have the Purple Day. October is also gonna be breast cancer awareness month, Friday, the 14th of October. East Greenbush Goes Big Day. There's a lot of paving going on. There's roads that have already been completed. There's more to be done. It's not the end of the season, so check the website. It'll let you know where it's gonna be paved next, and we're not departing, where to.
Is that schedule been adjusted, Ed? Because I know like we were on it for August and
Whereabouts are you in?
we're on Oriole.
Oriole?
So I just
I
figured
think some of them have
Weather.
been adjusted just
Yeah,
because of
like weather and.
weather
yeah.
and everything else, yeah. But if you keep checking the website, they should update it. If they don't, let me know. I'll get on somebody. Other than that, there was a
Town day.
town day, yes, thank you. I was looking for the word myself. I unfortunately could not attend. I had too many other things going on with pancake breakfast and this, that, and the other. But I heard it was a great success and there was a lot of turnout. So I think that's gonna be a regular thing. It's gonna happen every year. As long as COVID or something else doesn't happen.
I heard it was great too. We had a presence there. We had 2 staff members go doing crafts and also signing up for, we got a couple of new library cards, which was great. And a couple of people updated their cards. with
Awesome.
contact information. That was great too.
Was it at the park or?
It was at the town park. Yeah.
And I saw that during the book sale, that Saturday, I think, I don't know who's coordinating it, but someone's really brought it back.
Yes, right in the parking lot, which will be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, because we won't have to hire one of the Judy Methodi's from the East Greenbush PD anymore. Now that people are being good at their book sales, but maybe they'll be here.
You never know.
You know, this is recorded, right?
Live streaming.
PD might be watching this.
Hey, Ed, what was the East Greenbush Goes Pink Day again?
Friday, October 14th.
All right. Anything else, Ed?
Good. I think that's about it, unless you guys have something you want to know.
All right, thank you. Upper Hudson Library, anything that you are aware of?
The only thing that I'm aware of came today, and it was the first time that I have been made aware of it. We have a new contract with them. With a new fee schedule for the next 3 years, and we're looking at a 5% increase. So I'm pretty sure we built that into our budget.
Right.
5%, but I was frankly a little surprised because we have worked with them. We have expressed our feelings over the way the contract has been calculated many times. So I was surprised to have it come through email as a done deal without. So that will need to come before you.
Is that October, November?
They want it before, they want to have everything in place by January 1. But yeah, so I'll send it around.
Can we vote with comments to them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, sounds good. Anything else from Upper Hudson? Other than that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, liaison reports are done. I don't think we have any new business. No?
Jill, were you gonna announce the proposed dates for the equity training, or were we gonna handle that in service?
Well, I haven't heard back from Mary
Gotcha.
yet, from Upper Hudson. So
Okay.
we gave them a bunch of dates. I gave her a bunch of dates, so I think we should wait
Okay,
because they may not be. I'm gonna have to email her back because I'm surprised. Well, she probably, my guess is she emailed out to McLean and is waiting for them.
gotcha.
So I'll follow up again.
Okay,
Would that be considered old business or no?
that's probably old.
I mean, I guess I could give you tentative dates if you wanted to pencil.
No, don't do that,
Okay.
because then it's just gonna
There's too
talk.
many. Okay.
All right, the other item under old business is meeting format. We brought this up at the last meeting. Michael had some strong views, so this is one of those things where I think if we want to make a recommendation, but let's not vote on it, because I'm sure he'd like to have his input.
And I also think there's a training thing I would like to, I don't, yeah, Nyla, is it Nyla that
Oh,
It's
the
New York
strategic
State.
planning thing that you had?
No,
No,
it's
it's
Nyline.
open
It's
meetings.
through the New York State Department of Library Development.
Oh,
And I
that's right.
followed up with Tor today, who,
Mhm.
let me just pull this up real quick. Because he told me that, okay, he said that the open meetings law virtual training was excellent, very well attended, full of detailed information and answers to specific questions. He did learn, unfortunately, that they don't have a mechanism for automatically sending out the WebEx recordings when they're ready. So he said, he sent me the link to keep checking because they'll be posted on their website. And they add captioning manually, so that's what's causing the delay. So he doesn't have a date of when the recording will be posted, because we had sent it around to the board to attend the open meetings law webinar put on by the Department of Library Development. But I know a lot of people weren't going to attend and were going to watch the recording on their own time. So we're waiting for that.
So we'll punt this till at least after that gets posted, sent around, and people have an opportunity to look at it.
I will
Right.
say, unrelated to this, but a friend of mine was just complaining that her school board no longer live streams their Board of Education meetings. This is in Amsterdam. And she says that to her, those were extremely useful because as a parent, she can't get to the board meetings. She can watch from home and contribute from home.
Yeah.
And that is I know we're not having this big discussion about it, but I just wanted to point out there are other people in the community that feel this way, that these videos are useful. And while it's not this community, I know other people in East Greenbush will feel the same way as she does.
Yeah, I think it's,
I literally saw it like right before I left for here, so I was like, wow.
I think the discussion was probably different in 2019. When people were used to
This.
The
videos,
technology.
yeah, the technology, right? You know, the idea of remote login and watching. So, I mean,
I think it's also comforting just to have the option, even if you don't take advantage, it feels more transparent. Like just knowing, well, maybe I can't watch it, but knowing that it is broadcast makes it feel like
Access
it's more
to
on
that.
the up and up.
yeah, I don't know if you get the sense from the town board meetings, but I know from the school board meetings,
I sit
You know,
there and
when-
watch them all the time and go back and say, what did I miss?
Right.
You know, because it's not just that they're live streamed, they're also recorded and out there, so you can go back and look at each month what transpired.
I just did that for a meeting last year. I was looking for something. I wanted to remember the discussion.
because the school board recorded their meetings audio for years, and that's where the minutes came from, right? It was a translation of that, but that doesn't, it's not, I mean, for whatever reason, it's not the same relationship.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Right,
people
to
like
it.
to put faces to the voice and who's saying what and be able to say, oh, okay.
Right, so I mean, not to engage in this without, again, like I said, I think Michael has strong feelings about it, but, let's get that training WebEx sent around and then we can have a further discussion.
Because I think, that, I mean, if there may be legal things that will dictate what we need to do as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember if we would have to, is it bylaws that we'd have to change if we were to say, I mean, I don't know about the open meetings law with the remote, because
Remote has been changed now, so there's specific requirements that you have to put in place if someone was going to participate remotely. So I think we'd have to differentiate between live streaming, recording, and remote attendance. What do we want to do? So there's certain requirements.
and maybe that's what we should capture in terms of what the decisions are. I mean, which is, here in terms of live streaming, recording, in person, meaning board member in person versus
Right.
remote.
And the bylaws change is that right now the bylaws say
You
the
gotta be-
only way you can participate
Right.
and vote is in person.
Right.
As a member.
So we would have to, if we were to say
If,
remote, if we were,
because I mean, that's the change with the change of the open meetings law now. You would have to make wherever you were going to be calling in, you would have to make it publicly open and announced.
Right, so like in theory, I could come sit at your dining room table with you
Correct.
if you're gonna be participating from your home.
well, I mean, and that draws in
Yes.
a can of worms because, okay, say you get COVID and you're on quarantine and you get, you find out the day before, that's not going to satisfy the whatever it is, how many days notice. I mean, it's not as simple as,
Correct.
right, there are contingencies that you probably have to account for. So it is.
Well, and there's prior notice. I mean, you can't just do it.
That's what I'm saying is that you can't,
Exactly.
if it happens the day before, you need to have posted it 72 hours.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but
But
it's.
it's more than,
It's 24.
Oh, is it 24? Okay.
but it still can
Either that
happen.
or they're lying to me because I only get things every 24 hours ahead of time.
So, yeah, so it is more detailed than just kind of a one line.
Which is why I agree that we have to
Yeah.
listen to the webinar and really understand where we are now.
Okay,
Okay.
anything else?
Just one thing, just a minor thing for new, not a minor thing, but one thing to let you know about for new business. Thursday, I will be giving the presentation to the Skoda Town Board.
Oh,
Center
Thursday.
Fund, yes. So feel free, if you are not busy, feel free to come. It's a pretty low-key kind of presentation. We give a presentation to 3 libraries with Nassau, East Greenbush, and Castleton come together. We give kind of a brief overview of the library the preceding year. And we officially ask them for funds.
What time,
For
Jill?
their-
7.
Yes, but we've already sent out a letter, asking them for.
And you already had one
Thursday or
meeting.
next Thursday?
And we had a meeting, not about about the contract, but I had a meeting about, it's at 7 o'clock.
So,
And that's 2 days from now, Thursday.
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, today's Tuesday.
That's Shanae's open house, so.
It's okay, you don't need to, I mean,
I know.
typically we haven't
But I want
had, I
to
think Lynn came last year.
I can't,
Mary,
yeah.
I did last year.
Yeah, I think the 3 of us did, yeah.
That's right.
It was good.
Yeah, that's why I hate to miss it. Enjoyed it last year. but-
So,
Well, and
I'm
it's
sure it
also
will be live
interesting-
streamed.
It's also interesting to hear what Nassau and Castleton libraries, because that's the other advantage is you get to hear what they're up to as well.
Yeah.
Priorities are.
do you know if they stream or do anything? They do.
I'm sure they have to.
Okay.
Anything else? No? All right, anybody else have anything that they want to bring up, address? All right, I need a motion to adjourn. Lynn, Amanda.
Everybody. You
All
needed
those in
this.
favor? Bye. Thank you.
No executive session.
No executive session.
No executive session, maybe next.
See you all
I
for a
hope.
while.
See you, Liz.
Right.
Wait, you were the first. We made the motion and who?
Amanda.
Okay.
Okay, let me stop the live stream.
Oh,
Is the front door open? I'd be able to just.
You should.
yeah, I'm locking.
I'll bid you in just a moment.
Oh, I can wait.